Good evening. You're watching Primetime. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. Let's take a look at the top headlines. Reliance Jio reports a profit in just over a year of operations. The parent company RIL meets estimates aided by strong petrochemical earnings and stable refining options. HDFC Bank's 20% profit growth gets overshadowed by a 2,000 crore rupee NPA divergence. Kotak Mahindra reports its slowest profit growth in 10 quarters, while ITC's profit rises for the 8th straight quarter. Financial stocks power the Nifty past the 10,900 mark. Indian benchmarks post their 7th straight week of gains, the longest rally in nearly 6 years. The Congress and BJP demand the Kejriwal government's resignation after the Election Commission recommends disqualification of 20 Aam Aadmi Party MLAs. Supreme Court dismisses a plea seeking cancellation of the Censor Board's certificate granted to PADMAAVAT. Reliance Industries reported a strong third-quarter earning, but the limelight was stolen by its telecom unit. In just 15 months since its launch, Reliance Jio reported its first-ever quarterly profit. Sumit Sarkar gets us the highlights of Jio's record quarter.
So Reliance Jio reported a very strong set of numbers in the third quarter of financial year 2018. Now the revenues were up by around 12% to 6,879 crore rupees. EBITDA saw a jump of around 82% in this quarter to around 2,627 crore rupees. Now this is mainly because of the 57% cut in the interconnect usage charges in the third quarter of financial year 2018, which saw a bump up in this EBITDA, and also the EBITDA margin rose to around 38% in this quarter versus 24% in the last quarter, while the company also reported a net profit of 504 crore rupees in this quarter compared to a net loss of around 271 crore rupees in the last quarter. Now average revenue per user, that is the key number for Reliance Jio as of now, that came at around 154 rupees. Now this is a bit off to what Reliance Jio reported in the last quarter. Last quarter they reported around 156 rupees ARPU, but still the number of 154 is way ahead of what Bharti Airtel reported. Now Bharti Airtel reported an ARPU of around 123 rupees for the third quarter, and Reliance Jio has an ARPU of around 154 rupees in the third quarter of financial year 2018.
Now let's get the bigger picture. Reliance Industries' profits rose for the 7th straight quarter. Rise in profit was aided by strong performance in petrochemicals and refining operations. Sumit Sarkar sums up RIL's Q3 performance as well.
So if you see, Reliance Industries also on a standalone basis reported a strong set of numbers. The numbers were ahead of analyst estimates. Revenue jumped around 7% to 73,256 crore rupees in the third quarter of financial year 2018. EBITDA rose by around 6% to 13,744 crore rupees, while margins remained flat at around 18.8% in the third quarter. Net profit also rose by around 2% to 8,454 crore rupees. Now, this was the 7th consecutive quarter where Reliance Industries on a standalone basis has seen its net profit grow. GRM, that is gross refining margin, and the key number for the refining business, came in line with the analyst estimates at $11.6 per barrel versus $12 per barrel in the last quarter. And if you see segment-wise, the refining Petchem business continued to be the star and contributed higher to the EBIT of Reliance Industries. The refining business remained subdued, and retail business also saw some good growth coming in the third quarter of financial year 2018.
And the CFO of Reliance Industries, Alok Agarwal, has hailed the strong performance in petrochemical and refining segments. He also said Jio's strong show in Q3, which saw it turn profitable in 15 months since launch, surpassed expectations of most analysts.
In our petrochemical business, we have completed all the large projects. We reported the highest ever earnings, and we are now among the top 5 producers of petrochemicals globally. In refining, we saw strong product growth. The emphasis there is to move more and more product into the domestic markets, both retail as well as bulk. And I would say with the completion of the petrochemical projects, Jamnagar is the largest integrated refining and petrochemical site in the world and a jewel in Reliance's portfolio. Jio, our large digital services business, has become profitable in the second quarter of its commercial operations, and about 3 years ahead of what most industry observers and analysts were expecting.
All right, we're talking a bit more about RIL's Q3 performance with Sanjeev Bhasin, Executive Vice President of Markets at IIFL. A very good evening, Mr. Bhasin, and welcome to the show. Your take on the numbers and the key points that you looked out for.
Yeah, so numbers are, slightly ahead in all counts, and even though the GRM has come, say, 30 basis points below what the consensus, so I think it's in line because there could be some inventory, some of the inventory mismatch which could take place. It's 350 basis points above the Singapore GRM, which is strong. But the surprise package is Jio. Jio turning EBITDA positive last quarter and now a PAT positive is extremely, it doesn't seem conceivable, but it is what they have done. So data is the new gold, and that has heralded them. The Petchem margins are, I think, much ahead of the street, and so is the Reliance Retail. That's all. So sum of parts, their shale gas, naphtha, I've not seen those numbers, but sum of parts, all the energy complex is doing very well, and the added advantage is that Jio is again turned positive. So sum of parts, I would say Reliance has been a huge outperformer. The stock has almost doubled in a year. And if the Nifty has to go to 11,000, then I think Reliance will be at 4 figures in the next week to 10 days.
Oh. Mr. Bhasin, just a comment in a little more detail on Jio. They have already got the benefits of lower IUCs. This time the ARPUs are growing stronger. What do you see as the growth trajectory looking at its performance in just the first 2 quarters?
Yeah, so, it's very difficult. I've been tracking telecom for a long time, and I think this time Bharti's ARPU, the weakest I've seen in I don't know how many quarters. And surprisingly, Reliance ARPUs are way ahead of what anybody would have imagined. So it's telling you that their price composition seems and their packages are seeming to work very efficiently. The volume growth is offsetting all the costs, and the way ahead seems that because, you got to accept that data is the new gold. And in 2 quarters, once we get more pricing power back, then I think they'll be laughing their way to the bank. So it's all about how fast pricing can return and who can sustain in this type of environment with higher ARPUs. The IUC cut has definitely been a big positive for Reliance, as it has been a detriment for both Bharti, and I think Idea will follow suit.
Okay. Just a word on the RIL business. Of course, a boost there by rising oil prices. Do you see that trend continuing?
So oil is now in a, it has come from a bear market into a relatively bullish atmosphere, even though the macros don't support, because supply demand will even out, and I think you will see some sort of the cuts which the OPEC members have taken, that stabilizing. However, Reliance will continue to be in a sweet spot because of their very, very efficient management of inventory and the new cracker unit which comes on stream, which will add to the margins for the Petchem unit.
All right, thank you so much, Sanjeev Bhasin, for speaking with us this evening. And a lot of big results, a lot of big numbers today. India's largest private sector lender, HDFC Bank, reported a 20% growth in quarter profits, missing analyst estimates. Net interest income for the bank rose 24% to come in at 10,314 crore rupees. Retail loans accounted for 55% of the loan book, while wholesale loans accounted for the rest. The management is confident that an underlying recovery in the economy will boost demand going forward.
Right now, given that a large part of the economy is being driven by consumption demand, clearly the retail part has seen strong underlying demand, whether it's for car sales and truck sales and so on, which then drives those particular retail loans. On the wholesale side, it's been driven a little more by some amount of working capital, some amount of mid-tenor loans, medium-tenor loans, and some refinancing. Over the next couple of years, if we see a heightened pickup on the capex side, on the investment cycle, it's quite likely that you'll see a further pickup in the wholesale book as well.
Asset quality for HDFC Bank remained largely stable, but it did disclose a divergence in 3 of its accounts. Vishwanath Nair has more in this report.
private sector lender HDFC Bank on Friday said that it has about a 2,000 crore divergence for the financial year ended 2016-17. Now, according to the bank, this divergence arose because the RBI had classified 3 accounts as part of its risk-based supervision as NPA for the financial year ended March 2017, and had asked the bank to consider them as NPAs. Of these 3 accounts, 2 had already been classified as NPA by the bank, but the last account, which was worth about 1,700 crore, that account was under contention over the last quarter. In December 2017, the joint lender forum connected to this account said that the servicing of this account has been quite standard, and this account can be upgraded to standard assets, to the standard asset category, which the bank has promptly done, as well as written back some of the provisioning that it would have made in the past for this account. Now, 2,000 crore for HDFC Bank, for a bank which prides itself on top management, might seem large, but the bank's contests that the RBI's risk-based supervision happened only in October, and by December, the GLF had already asked the bank to classify this account as standard. So there has been no, as such, no model diversion in the way the bank classifies its assets. Apart from HDFC Bank, there's also ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, and Yes Bank, who have in the past reported large divergences. What happens to these banks over the next few days as they report the third quarter results? That is something that we will be watching here closely on Bloomberg Quint.
And Kotak Mahindra Bank's profits rose at its slowest pace in 10 quarters, in which asset quality improved in Q3. Net profits rose nearly 20%, while net interest income rose 17%. Missing the estimates, gross NPAs in absolute terms fell 2.6%, and gross NPAs as a percentage of total assets fell to 2.31%. Net NPAs also fell to 1%, while provisions declined in the quarter gone by. Kotak Mahindra Bank management said that the slippages have decreased during this quarter as asset quality improves.
What we had in September, our gross NPA numbers at this stage are lower than what we had, effectively meaning that the slippages during this quarter are lesser than what we have either upgraded or recovered. We end with an NNPA of 1.09% and an ROA then of about 1.73. During this quarter, we also kind of completed the acquisition of the partner's stake in the insurance company, and effectively now the insurance company is 100% owned by the bank.
Also, more earnings today. FMCG player ITC's profits grew for the eighth quarter in a row. However, the company's cigarette business didn't fare too well. Darshan Mehta gets us key takeaways from ITC's Q3.
So it was a muted set of financials that ITC did report. If you're looking at the key takeaways, first of all, it met estimates on all parameters, especially if you're taking the margin as well as the profits that came out. The other important factors that you need to watch is the fact that the agri business did not contribute. So it was rather volatile and it came down, and that is why when we were expecting more than a 10,000 crore of top line to come in, that didn't come in. So agri was an important miss that was there. This is extremely important. Cigarette volumes declined about 4 to 5%. Our estimate was a decline of anywhere between 3% to a potential growth of 1%. That didn't happen, so that was quite disappointing as far as ITC was there. Now, if you're looking at the profit number seems to be much larger than what the estimate was, and that was a 413 crore exceptional gain that was there, mainly on account of a tax write-back in Tamil Nadu. So that was something that boosted the profits of the company. And finally, FMCG and hotel segmental revenues, the show that happened there actually offset the weak numbers that came in because of the cigarette numbers. But in all, if you're looking at ITC, an inline set of numbers totally met our estimates this time.
And Wipro's net profit missed estimates in Q3 as the company made a one-time provision for an insolvent client. Net profit fell 12% to 1,930 crore rupees, while total income rose 6.5% to 14,295 crore rupees. Revenue in dollar terms from IT services remained flat, while revenue in constant currency terms rose by 0.9%. EBIT declined 13.2%, while margin contracted to 14.3%. The company expects revenue from IT services to be in the range of $2,033 million and $2,073 million in Q4. And weighed down by headwinds from its joint venture, HCL Technology reported flat profit growth in Q3. Net profit rose 0.3% to 2,194 crore rupees. Sales in dollar terms rose 3.1% to marginally beat estimates. In constant currency terms, sales rose 3%. The company stuck to its revenue growth forecast of 10.5 to 12.5% for the full year. EBIT rose 2.4%, while EBIT margins remained flat in the quarter. HCL Tech added 25 clients in the quarter. The company's management has said the quarterly performance is a validation of the success of HCL's next-gen offerings in the market.
Engineering services has been one of our strongest service lines for several years. Even on the traditional spend, while there is a lot of expectation on what automation can bring, we have delivered significant cost savings for our customers driven by our automation platform, which is Dry Ice. Right.
Now, Indian markets extended their record rally for the third straight day, thereby posting its longest weekly rally since 2012 for the day. Both Nifty and Sensex gained over 0.7%. On a weekly basis, the benchmark indices gained over 2%. Neeraj Shah sums up this week's market action in this report.
Well, who doesn't like it when the markets hit all-time highs, especially if you are bulls, and this week was no different. We hit all-time highs and we are very close to levels that people predicted we would reach at the end of calendar year 18 or sometime in calendar year 18, the first 20 days of January. So good moves this week for the Nifty and the Sensex. The Nifty close to 11,000, the Sensex 35,500, and the broader markets, albeit not in the same vein, but participated in the second half of trade. Though, if you look at the weekly returns, you would see that the broader markets didn't quite as perform, and therein lies the worry that all is not hunky-dory. The structure slightly looks a bit different than what you otherwise would have liked in the bull market. However, let's talk about some of the gainers and losers. ICICI Bank stood out. Really, it was a narrow move for the market by and large, with banks ruling the roost. ICICI Bank right up there, 11.5%. And then the others, which came out with results, participated. So inline quarter for HDFC Bank, Kotak Bank. But it was not about the numbers really that led the stocks to do it, or for that matter, Yes Bank. HCL Tech, 3.5% again, contributing in its own sweet way. But as you can see, it was very narrow and led predominantly by the banking names. The broader end of the spectrum, Jubilant Foodworks, very strong results, 9.5% higher this week. Deepak Nitrite, profits moving up 170%, a stock gaining about 5% this week. And ICICI Prudential and Mindtree. Mindtree stood out as well in terms of the mid-cap IT stocks. Very strong set of numbers, 400 basis points margin expansion, and the stock gaining about 10% in the week gone by. I think amongst the biggest movers for this week was Grove Finance, stock ending 36% higher, a 20% move in Friday's session, showing the kind of strength, also showing the stretch valuations, to be honest. Amongst the broader end of the spectrum, while the small cap and the mid cap index fell, this one, because of the results, went up about 23% in the week gone by. So good moves from Muthoot Capital as well. The losers, some high flyers came off. GVK Power 13%, Adani Power about 14%. The whole ADAG pack crumbled. So not the best of second halves for the Anil Dhirubhai Ambani Group stocks. So Reliance Capital, Reliance Naval, etc., all of them came off. But largely, very narrow moves, banks dominating trade, large caps dominating trade. Let's see if the next week continues this run and if we make a dash towards that 11,000 mark.
Now, the government has identified 67 companies for alleged money laundering after the cash ban was announced. The government is now looking into the transactions done by these firms with other entities as well. Nikunj Johri, who's spoken to a senior government official, has all the details in this report.
Post demonetization, the government had initially identified about 67 companies alleged for money laundering and depositing large amounts of money into their bank accounts and later withdrawing it. The investigation is currently ongoing on these 67 companies, and investigations are being conducted on companies that are associated or linked with these 67 companies. And remember, there are hundreds of companies linked with these 67 companies. A government official told reporters that real task for enforcement agencies now is to identify the real beneficiaries behind these fraudulent transactions. In a separate interaction with reporters today, Junior Minister for Corporate Affairs, Mr. P.P. Chaudhary, said that there were 2 companies identified that had deposited large amounts of money into their bank accounts and withdrew it later. These were one of the companies that was identified deposited about 3,700 crore rupees in its bank account and later withdrew it, while another deposited about 2,500 crore rupees in its bank account and the amount was later withdrawn. However, we do not know the names of these 2 companies, but we do know for sure that the government is going hard against these supposedly shell companies who undertook fraudulent transactions post demonetization.
And the Election Commission has recommended the disqualification of 20 Aam Aadmi Party MLAs to the President for allegedly holding office of profit. The President is bound to go by the poll panel's recommendations. Chief Election Commissioner A.K. Jyoti has declined to comment on the issue as the matter is sub judice. Following the development, Aam Aadmi Party also said EC's order defied principles of natural justice. Not just that, legislators of AAP have moved the Delhi High Court against the poll panel's recommendations. Meanwhile, the BJP and Congress have not seen any malafide intention in the poll panel's decision. Instead, the Delhi units of both parties have demanded Arvind Kejriwal's resignation from the post of Chief Minister.
सिर्फ और सिर्फ ज्योति जी हैं जो ये पूरा का पूरा निर्णय देना चाह रहे हैं, जबरदस्ती देना चाह रहे हैं और पूरी की पूरी दिल्ली पे अपना ये निर्णय इसलिए थोपना चाह रहे हैं क्योंकि सोमवार को वो रिटायर हो रहे हैं.
Disqualification is now certain. Now, 20 of them in one row shows the way Kejriwal was misusing his authority to distribute goodies to his MLA after talking about fighting for corruption. All turned out to be a complete hypocrite.
ये चीफ मिनिस्टर के पार्लियामेंट्री सेक्रेटरी नहीं है, ये मिनिस्टर्स के पार्लियामेंट्री सेक्रेटरी हैं. तो हिंदुस्तान में कहीं पर भी 21 मिनिस्टर्स के पार्लियामेंट्री सेक्रेटरी जो कि ऑफिस के साथ में स्टाफ के साथ में गाड़ी, सारी की सारी सुविधाएं इनको मिलेंगी और ये मिनिस्टर के तुल्य सुविधाएं लेना चाहते थे, तो फिर ये कहां के आम आदमी रह गए? फिर ये ऑफिस ऑफ प्रॉफिट में क्यों नहीं आएंगे?
So what is at the root of the office for profit issue and what is the political blow to the Aam Aadmi Party? Because remember, the government will not be impacted. They have enough MLAs even after this disqualification to run the government comfortably. But the bigger picture will be discussed this evening on Primetime Debate. Ashutosh, Aam Aadmi Party senior leader, is joining me. I'm speaking with KTS Tulsi, constitutional law expert, also Rajya Sabha member from the Congress, as well as political editor of the Business Standard, Aditi Phadnis. And the Supreme Court today rejected a plea seeking an urgent hearing on a fresh PIL that sought cancellation of the censor board's certificate granted to PADMAAVAT. A bench comprising of Chief Justice Deepak Mishra, Justice A.M. Khanwilkar and D.Y. Chandrachud also trashed the submission that the screening of the movie may cause serious threat to life, property and law. The bench said maintaining law and order is not our job, that's the job of the state. This came a day after Karni Sena workers allegedly vandalized a cinema hall in Muzaffarpur, Bihar, in protest against the Supreme Court order of a nationwide release of the film. Haryana and Madhya Pradesh governments have not issued any formal order but had stated that they would not allow the exhibition of the film. MP Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan today said that the Advocate General has been asked to study the order before taking a decision on its screening in the state.
हमने अपने एडवोकेट जनरल को कहा है वो अध्ययन करे, अभी फैसला हमने देखा नहीं है. उस फैसले के अध्ययन के बाद जो माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय में कोई बात रखनी होगी तो हम रखेंगे.
समझने का प्रयास करेंगे कि कोई कानूनी हल इसमें और कुछ है क्या. अगर वो होगा तो उस और बढ़ेंगे, नहीं होगा तो जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के डायरेक्शन है उसके अनुसार अपनी पालना करेंगे.
सिनेमेटोग्राफी एक्ट का सेक्शन 6 सब सेक्शन 1 और 2 सीधा केंद्रीय सरकार को ताकत देता है. उनके पास में ये निहितार्थ है, सेंसर बोर्ड द्वारा पास किसी फिल्म को वो विशेष परिस्थितियों में बैन कर सकते हैं. मैं चाहता हूं उन ताकतों को काम में लिया जाए क्योंकि इससे ज्यादा और विशेष नहीं हो सकता कुछ भी.
Well, to speak more on this, I'm joined by actor Shabana Azmi, very senior actor from the film industry. Thank you so much, ma'am, for speaking with us on Bloomberg Quint. The Supreme Court today has rebuffed another attempt to ban the movie Padmaavat. What's your response to the way this entire issue has been unfolding?
Well, firstly, I welcome the Supreme Court decision, and now that the CBFC has certified it and the Supreme Court has cleared it, there should be no room for any further confusion. The state should assure safe passage for the film. There's no confusion in my mind.
Yeah, but that is not what is happening. There are still threats. The states are now looking at how they can fight this out legally. How do you, as a senior member of the film industry, see it working out? What's the message going out to creative people like yourself?
No two prizes for guessing. It's very clearly that either it's my way or the highway. That is the message that is going out, and it's completely unacceptable to the creative community because freedom of expression is absolutely vital to the creative arts. The way this whole thing has been played out, I place the blame firmly at the door of the state, because right from the beginning, when the first attack was made on the set and on Sanjay Leela Bhansali's personage, even if the filmmaker themselves had not lodged an FIR, since it had been done in full public view, suo motu action should have been taken by the state. The fact that even till today, those people who have threatened Deepika Padukone and Sanjay Leela Bhansali, placed a bounty on her head, threatened to burn her alive, are going scot-free with impunity. No action has been taken against them. Only one very weak little show-cause notice was issued to one person. Obviously, they will get emboldened, and this situation would come. If we had stemmed it right in the beginning, we would not have to face this day.
You know, what does it say for filmmakers, Ms. Hazmi? Now, Sanjay Leela Bhansali has had to cull a lot of parts in the movie. He changed the name. He's presenting the movie with many disclaimers. Do you think filmmakers will think several times in the future before looking at any subject of historical importance?
I'm sure once bitten, twice shy. And that doesn't augur well for the creative community. Also, it doesn't augur well for the image that we give of India outside in the world. We are calling ourselves a global player. We are right there in the center. And when this is the kind of reflection of where our society's tolerance or intolerance level is at, how does it augur for India abroad? It's something that the state should be very seriously concerned about. To be counted among those states that we recognize as failed states, because criminals are allowed to go scot-free with impunity. Is that how we want the world to see us? Well, if not, then surely the state has an action to take.
Well, thank you so much, Shabana Azmi, for speaking with us. So will states take action? I'm speaking about that in a little more detail. Up ahead on Primetime Debate, I'm going to be joined by Prahlad Kakkar, as well as eminent film journalist Mayank Shekhar. So we're talking a bit more about Padmaavat and whether this is Muslim-free speech. But of course, first subject up tonight on Primetime Debate is Aam Aadmi Party. What does this disqualification, imminent disqualification of their 20 MLAs mean for the future of this party? We're coming right back with that. Don't go away.